We get a lot of questions through my channel, and many from our clients and potential clients, so I've decided from time to time I'm going to do some shorter videos addressing some of these most common questions. So let's go. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sue Richey and I am an investor, and I'm also the owner of a residential property management company here in Northern Virginia, and we currently manage about 1,000 residential properties for other owners. So I'm highlighting one question that we get from many potential clients that I've been asked from viewers as well. Why can't I leave some of my stuff locked up in a room that's off limits to tenants? I don't really want to get a storage unit. Can I do this? Now, this question has a lot of parts, so I'm going to break this down a little bit. I get it. You've got some big things. You don't want to move them out because you think you're going to come back to this house in maybe a few years, and the tenant doesn't really need that extra room or that portion of the storage area or shed, right? In theory, I guess that could make sense, but honestly, it's a really bad idea. First of all, it could be a huge liability to store personal items in the home. If you've got things in a corner of a room or a separate room locked up, you might think that that's probably not going to hurt anyone, right? But you might be wrong. And if you have things in an attic or a garage or a shed where someone could potentially access, it could turn dangerous in ways that you don't expect. Let me tell you a quick story, and I heard this from a fellow property manager early in my career, and this is a very unfortunate situation that he had to deal with. A property owner who had just bought a property as an investment home, he didn't know that the previous seller had personal items stored in the attic. Tenant was told that the attic was off limits, but as we all know, tenants don't listen and don't always follow lease details. So the tenant's son went into the attic to store some moving boxes, and what ended up happening, he stepped through the floorboards, fell through the ceiling to the level below, pulling with him a very heavy object, and this son became paralyzed and the situation was terrible. Now, had the son fallen and nothing was up there in the attic, it still could have been terrible, but that's what your liability insurance is for. The fact that dangerous items were stored up there complicated the situation, and nobody came out of this one with a good result. So don't get yourself into a situation like this when it could turn ugly, when it really doesn't need to be. Paint, chemicals, ladders, sharp tools, and things like that all carry liability with them, so don't leave them around. Okay, a second reason not to leave your things in a home with a tenant is that your insurance, which is now a landlord insurance policy, is not going to take care of your personal belongings. We've had clients leave valuables locked in a closet in a basement long ago, and when that area got wet, nobody knew because the door was locked, and items got moldy and they got ruined, and the insurance wouldn't cover their loss. So if there's a flood and there are things in a basement, who's even going to know? Your tenant isn't allowed to access that area, so they can't even check on these things. It could be flooding, it could be moisture, whatever is going on could be happening for years and no one would ever know because you've made this area off limits to the tenant. So guess what's happened to all of those valuable belongings? Well, you might not even want them anymore. Okay, and the third reason to get your things out is that they could easily get stolen or damaged. And just because you say an area is off limits or you lock it up doesn't mean that it's not going to get broken into. It doesn't even have to be your tenant that's the bad guy. It could be a friend or a house guest. Who knows? So you can't know for sure that what you're leaving when you're storing your valuables in your home, that they're going to be safe, so you really should think twice about it. Now, people ask us about this exact scenario more often than you might think when they're initially talking to us about managing their property. And our answer is always the same. Remove your belongings, period. For all the reasons that I've just said, and also because as a property manager, we can't manage these personal items when we can't take responsibility for that. It would be nearly impossible. And it's why we made the policy in our company that we don't manage a furnished rental, because we don't want to get into that ballgame. It's a whole different thing. We even had a potential client once say to us that they wanted to store their baby grand piano in a room and lock it up because they didn't want to move it. Now, do you think we took that client? No way. We are not going to take responsibility for something like that if something were to happen to his precious possession like that. No matter how many disclaimers we would have potentially put in place saying, you know what, if something were to happen, we're not responsible. If something did happen, guess who they're going to blame? Us. We just don't want any part of that. So if you have or you're thinking about storing some of your items in your home with a renter, think about it really carefully and think about all the points that I just made, because if you really, really care about the stuff that you want to keep, then spend the money on a small storage space, because you know what? That extra money you spend can eliminate so many unforeseen situations that might come up and a lot of liability. And it also gives your tenant the full access to the home and full enjoyment of your entire property, which is what they probably expected in the first place. So I hope that it helps. Wanted to answer this question. It comes up a lot. If you like our channel, please subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share this question with somebody who might be dealing with something like this as well. Thanks again. See you soon.